Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so hyped because it is What Is She Thinking? Episode 8. Music makes the people come together. Yeah. Dr. Heather. It is I, your co-host, Melanie Marshall. Are you excited to do this episode?
I'm pumped.
You're pumped? Great.
I'm here and I'm pumped up.
Because music does that.
Music pumps us up.
Music pumps us up. Music helps us connect. Music helps us let out the feelings, let out the limbic leakage. As
limbic leakage. Yes, indeed. We do have limbic leakage, and music can help us cope with that.
I would say probably catharsis. That would probably be my word for it.
You take catharsis, I'll take limbic leakage.
We each get something.
We do.
Fantastic. So look, it's that time of the year. People have been through a lot, and we are heading into a brand new page, which may not feel like it. And we want to just do something a little bit fun about something we know pretty much everybody is into. Pretty much everyone's affected by, and it isn't depressing. We're going to try not to be depressing. Nobody say Alzheimer's. And that's music. So I wanted to say, you know what my day has been. You know what my day has been like.
In a day, my friend.
It's been a day. And yet, this is genuine, like full Mel, because I listened to one of my awesome playlists to fully switch my state while I was driving my way back to you with a burning love that's true. I'm sorry, apologies to the spinners.
You are known for your playlists, my friend. Melanie has a playlist for every occasion, and for occasions you didn't even know needed playlists. She has you covered.
Yeah, I had Operation Tyrone, which was the name of one of the horses that pulled the royal carriage during Harry and Meghan's wedding, because I was producing the long walk, which is where all the crowds were. So I had a playlist for that. I had a playlist for the endless, we called it the Never Ending Story. So Never Ending Story 1, 2, 3, 4 for all the Israeli elections. I've had playlists for all sorts of things. Operation Werewolf, the operation to take back Mosul from Islamic State. Yeah, I've had all sorts of playlists.
So from equine events to elections, you have us covered.
Yeah, I like how you wanted to do the alliteration, so you just skipped over Islamic State.
I did.
But my question to you is, what is it like that happens that means I could go from being totally bummed or stressed, like I was stressed, and I put on a couple of songs on a playlist I will share with all of you, and it just changed it around for me. What is happening in this noggin?
So much is happening in your noggin. It's really actually phenomenal. So listeners, we actually thought about incorporating music into a previous episode, and we decided, no, this has to be a standalone episode because there's so much for us to dig into. So first of all, music actually directly affects our biology. It directly affects our nervous systems. So our heartbeat actually adapts to the beats per minute in a song. You play a fast song, whoop, your heartbeat elevates. And to a certain level, when your heart rate elevates, you actually physically get more excited, right? Now, you play a song that goes too fast, and then what happens?
Anxiety?
Yeah, boom, that's it. You're going to create anxiety because your heart rate's going to increase too much. So we have your pleasurable zone, and then we have anxiety. Now, if you're anxious and you want to actually calm yourself down, you can play quieter music, and that'll downregulate your body's nervous system.
Sure, but what is happening? Just tell us more about the specific biology. Let's stick with the happy stuff.
Yeah, okay.
What happened there? Stress to happy.
Well, stress to happy is really interesting, and you're going to love this. It involves one of your favorite regions, my friend, the amygdala. So music actually directly hits our limbic system. And what's interesting is it comes in through our ears, right? Our auditory cortex is kind of right here behind our ears. And that's very closely related to your emotion and memory processing centers in your brain. So these guys are all neighbors. They play in the same neighborhood. So the sound comes in, it hits your amygdala. Your amygdala helps you feel emotional about it. And our brains actually respond positively with positive emotion to certain kinds of sounds. So you're listening to music that actually cues your brain to be in a happy mood and to have positive emotions. Now, that amygdala sits right next to my favorite region, the hippocampus, which is involved in memory. So what's going to happen is not only does the music make your brain kind of feel happy and feel those positive emotions, but that's actually going to cue you to remember positive times and positive experiences too. And also to link that music with positive, happy memories and experiences. It floods your brain with positivity.
So when I hear Love Train by the OJs or When the Going Gets Tough by Billy Ocean, and it immediately, that hits my auditory cortex, my amygdala, tickles my amygdala, and then that goes to my hippocampus, which is like, hey, you like this, it makes you happy.
Yeah, and as a bonus, it actually triggers your brain's reward pathways in the striatum and releases dopamine. And what does dopamine do? Why do we love a good dopamine squirt?
Because it makes us feel good.
Makes you feel good. That's exactly right. It makes you feel good. And what do you start doing, Melanie, when you hear one of your favorite songs?
Usually moving. I usually start to move.
We're dancing. We're dancing. We're moving. The cue of music as it relates to movement is so biologically driven by our need for pattern and structure that at the same time it's making us feel excited, it actually grounds us as well. So have you ever seen a toddler just bust out, start dancing to some music?
I love toddler dancing.
There is nothing that tells them to break out to music, but our brains really appreciate rhythm and prediction and anticipation. And we link music with movement. In fact, so your motor cortex is right here. That's if you want to put a headband on, kind of that area under the headband in your brain. And your motor cortex actually activates to music right under your antler ears, my friend, a little down to the side. That your motor cortex actually responds to music, even if you're not dancing. But because music is tickling your motor cortex, makes you want to move because that's what your motor cortex does.
And does our motor cortex then, if we're moving, does that make us feel good? Does that get a dopamine squirt?
Absolutely. It's all connected and related to music in your brain.
So I'll move. I'll do the little toddler butt drop. And that gets the dopamine going again.
Well, the dopamine's going before you even start doing it. The dopamine starts going when you hear that music.
Okay, so you mentioned the movement. Are you a fan of the music, Dr. Heather?
Music makes the people come together. And my homegirl Madonna said that. And so, yeah, I love music. I'm sure like most people, my relationship with music began as a wee lass, as a toddler. But really, it became significantly more formalized when I was 6. And my grandmother enrolled me in dance classes. And so I learned very young to count to 8. And to this day, everything in my life happens on the 8 count. Just for getting ramped up for this episode, I had my tap shoes on and I was tapping. Because it's all about the rhythm, baby. So for me, my relationship with music is very much through my experience as a dancer, and about what kinds of music are related to what kinds of movements. And oftentimes for me, that means that when I hear music, I'm also at the same time hearing the tap sounds I would make to it, even if I'm not actually making them. Or I'm imagining and seeing, and inside my sort of mental imagery there, what kind of movements would go along with that song. So what kind of choreography I would be doing to that music as it's happening.
So you have that really strong movement connection because of your background as a dancer.
Yeah.
And the emotional connection, which always goes along with it, which is your love for your grandmother, because you two are super close.
My love for my grandmother, absolutely, because we are super close.
I have, and I mean, I mean, you're going to love this because it's hip.
And my love for Madonna also. I'm going to put that out there.
I know. Listen, I know. Look, we named it after a Madonna song this episode. That was throwing that bone to you, baby. They're throwing that bone to you. I was going to name it after a proverb. Went for Madonna instead. She's also wise. This is a hippocampus thing. For me, there are some songs that, I mean, not just happy, but if I hear one chord of them, I've always been really good at the name that song game, but like it will immediately take me to a memory. So if I hear Young Hearts Run Free, I am immediately taken to driving across the Eastern Cape in South Africa with Kate Payton, God rest her soul. She was killed in Somalia a few years later, and Greg Barrow on one of my first trips as a young journalist. And like, I remember the feeling of being in the car, the windows being open, singing at the top of our lungs. Like, it is like being there.
Yeah.
And that is like, there are a few songs like that. But also, like, if I hear the first chords of Time of Your Life by Green Day, I remember that one of my university boyfriends called me to break up with me while I was studying for an exam the next day. And that song came on the radio. And so I was like, oh, this is so like, but so is that the same thing? Is that the same linkage, or is it slightly different?
No, it's the same linkage. So again, because your amygdala, which processes emotion, and your hippocampus, which turns experiences into memories because they're neighbors, they talk to each other and they're very, very close together. So anytime you hear a song that's then associated with an emotion, it's going to pull up that memory really, really fast. Or it could be that the memory is pulled up and that emotion actually floods back onto you as if you're re-experiencing it. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. I've had that where you feel that sadness, or you feel that, I feel that feeling come over you. And it's
sometimes you don't want that feeling.
But it's a strange sensation. Well, then I just play a different song.
There you go.
However, there is that catharsis that sometimes you like. It's the Elton John sad songs, they say so much. When you feel miserable, I mean, it's like, did you not ever have like, somebody living a floor above you who played I Will Always Love You? I remember this. I was living in a hostel in Budapest where, hilariously enough, I sang backup on their theme song for the More Than Ways Youth Hostel. So somewhere out there is a theme song that I am on. Anyway, if
anybody out there has it, please send it. I would love to hear it.
I've recorded on a few songs, actually. I sang on a song we wrote for a friend of ours who was going to serve in Afghanistan. I was the vocals on that when my friend rapped. So I've done a few of these. But I remember one of the people who worked there got broken up with, probably a little like me. And they played I Will Always Love You, like, because it was right after that had come out, about like 30 times on repeat. Now, clearly it gave them some catharsis. But I have had that where if I'm feeling really sad, there are some songs like Somebody That I Used to Know by Gotye, or Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. Now, maybe everyone's going to have their own, that like somehow it makes me, or it has made me in the past, feel a sense of emotional release. What is that? What's going on there?
Well, sometimes we just need that emotional release, and we play those songs knowing we need that emotional release. But let's think about what an emotional release gives us, right? We have things bottled up, and when we have stuff bottled up, that stuff really does actually include chemicals bottled up that are not great for us. And when we cry, we release toxins. And even if there's a song that's bittersweet and we're not crying, sometimes just hearing that allows our brain to engage in additional processing that allows us to kind of have our own sense of closure with it. So even though you might be feeling something, again, your brain is really active everywhere for music. So while you might be feeling something, your prefrontal cortex right here is actually thinking deeply about it and trying to make sense of it and trying to resolve issues involved related to what you know when you hear that music. So your brain's working on sort of conflict resolution and problem solving while you're undergoing that emotional catharsis. And you might not feel it, but that's what's happening under the hood.
Really? So I'm thinking that rat bleep, broke my heart, usually yet again. I mean, there's actually a series. I could make a playlist that is just,
I was going to ask if you had a playlist for that. Because
I should make a playlist for I should have known better times like 10. But if I made it so when I listen to those songs, my brain is working in all sorts of different parts to try and resolve those feelings or those thoughts. Is it thoughts or just feelings?
It's thoughts and feelings. It's both, really. But the feelings are going to come faster because your amygdala responds really, really quickly. Emotions are fast and intense. And then after that slows down a little bit, your prefrontal cortex is going to come in and kick in with the thoughts. So even if you're not aware of it, you are really actually engaging in a lot of thinking about it. Your brain hates conflict, and your brain hates things to be unresolved. Your brain is a prediction machine, and your brain likes solving problems. So your brain's going to kind of work on it like it's a problem to be solved.
This is totally unrelated. I don't know why. I want to come back to this because I want to know because I think of brains, and I think of brains, music, and emotion. I want to know about brains and thinking, but it makes me think of cameraman that I think I should mention more, Tony Jolliffe, who I worked with on so many projects, who's amazing. And we were making this film in Afghanistan, and he wanted to do original music because he did nothing else would do, right? And it was a film about Afghan women. So we went to this restaurant which had a traditional musician playing, and Tony was asking him to play. But Tony kept, this guy didn't speak English, and Tony didn't speak Dari. And Tony kept on getting really intense, no, it's got to be half a chord lower. And I want it to sound more like we're just changing scene and now we're in a hospital. And it was hilarious because it was the most intellectual, and now a little bit higher. Now I want it to go up a bit. And this guy was just all right, I'm just going to keep playing something slightly different. This guy's going to keep recording. That was what I thought was happening, at least. In the end, we got something that was beautiful and worked perfectly. But I'm not sure that as an intellectual exercise worked super well. But however, what you're describing, very different. Anyway, I don't know why. It just makes me laugh because I think of that when I think of futile intellectual exercises and music.
Well, I think what you're saying is incredibly illustrative of the composition side of music, which is very much about feeling and less about thinking, because you can overthink things. And if you listen to interviews with a lot of composers, they're simply noodling around, and they are wanting to express a feeling, and that's what comes through in the music.
For you as a cognitive neuroscientist, what is the most fascinating to you about the impact of music?
So one of the things that fascinates me is actually the relationship between something people almost universally love, which is music, and something people almost universally dislike, which is math. And we get so many people saying, "Oh, I'm an artsy person. I'm not a math person," or the left brain, right brain thing, which like don't even get me started on what a myth that is. But really, the fascinating thing to me is that brain imaging studies using MRI have shown that music and math have so many overlapping parts in the brain. And it's because they're so highly related. They rely on very similar cognitive processes. They rely on rhythm, they rely on timing, counting, prediction, pattern recognition. These are all common cognitive processes involved in both music and math. And in fact, a lot of research has shown that people, including children who are trained musically, actually perform better on math tests and math reasoning tests than children who are not. And so it's fascinating to me that these things are seemingly disparate to a lot of people. People think they're completely unrelated and different, but really they're not. And what I want to say is most people find music approachable and enjoy it. And that also means that you probably have a lot of skills that are already very, very valuable for math too. So it's more approachable than you think.
Look at you out there stumping for STEM. And it is interesting because there are a lot of people who are in math and the sciences who are into music, right? Who play an instrument or do something like that. But I would have thought of it again as thinking. So tell me, what parts of the brain, this is where I learn new parts of the brain, new frontiers for a new year. What parts of the brain does music touch that aren't emotional? You said the prefrontal cortex, but so what does it stimulate the most?
Well, a lot, right? The emotional, it's just one little nugget, your amygdala, about the size of an almond, believe it or not. And I'm shocked I haven't brought an almond onto the show, but I will. We'll get some brain representations coming soon.
I wrote that left brain, right brain thing down, by the way, too.
But we've also discussed your prefrontal cortex, responsible for thinking and like what are called higher order cognitive processes. So like the kinds of thinking that we think of as being like intentional and problem solving, decision making, reasoning, things like that. And we've also discussed your motor cortex up here. That has nothing to do with emotion. And a really interesting part of your brain that's maybe one of the least understood lobes of the brain, your parietal cortex. So we have your headband for your motor region, and it's kind of just behind that, right about here. And that's involved a lot in spatial processing. And believe it or not, that area of the brain lights up like a Christmas tree when music is playing.
What does that do, though?
So the same thing for math, too. It's also really active in math. And it's basically involved
by the Council for Math. I'm so sorry.
I know. It's basically involved in decoding patterns and predicting patterns and timing and things like that.
Does that have to do with dance, or what is that? What is that about then? Like, what is that?
It doesn't have anything to do with dance. It just has something to do with, for humans, we are just very interested in pattern recognition and pattern prediction, because if we can predict something, then we know we can count on it. And in fact, we know that it's something that we can then predict way into the future. So if I have a constant sound, you can predict that, right? But if there's nothing predictable there, it doesn't make sense. And we actually take more comfort and are drawn to things that are predictable and that involve a predictable pattern that we can decode.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious about I'm sorry, I did ask you to go into different brain parts. I was just curious about what that made us do, basically. What does that make us do, that part?
Yeah, it's just involved in a lot of everyday activities, believe
What
it or
does
not.
Insula do? Does the Insula get in on music or no?
No, we're not going to talk about the insula today.
Damn
We'll
it.
save that
That's
for
my
another
other
episode.
favorite part.
We're going to save, but you got parietal lobe today and parietal cortex, and that's a new one. So we'll take that.
Oh, okay. You got parietal lobe.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I want to talk about, because we're coming towards the end, and I know we need to get into our takeaways, but because there's another really, really hugely important part of music, and if we don't talk about this, I think we've missed a huge part of the point, which is connection. To me, music is a connecting point for people. You talk about Madonna, and I'm not going to let you go on about this because of where we are. Being Madonna fans, right? Or being in a concert, you know, there is something completely different about the experience of being together when music is played, or sharing music, you know, me going back and forth playing girly pop with young Afghan women, you know, playing, here's Britney with My Prerogative, here's Katy Perry, you know, with California Girls. That creates connection. Being in a Madonna concert, me being in a Prince concert, that is like connective tissue. And I think I was curious, like, to me, that's one of the most powerful things music does. And I think it's like a magic. It's a magic wand for building connection with people. And I don't know if that involves the brain, but I think it's one of the most powerful things for me about music.
Well, it does. And so, as I said, music is spread throughout our entire brain, right? And that means that when you and I are listening to a song, you know, our brains are responding in very similar ways. And when my brain is responding similarly to yours, I can see that. I can see that we're both dancing. And that beat, that predictable beat that comes in, also, we're both dancing to the same rhythm. And I can predict that you're going to stay on rhythm and that I'm going to stay on rhythm because we're sharing that experience. And it is probably the most powerful form of nonverbal communication that exists.
This is like when I did the Gangnam Style dance with those young guys in Iraq.
There you go.
Is that
absolutely? And when you shared the pop music with the women in Afghanistan, you didn't have to speak the same language to share the experience of the music.
But the beat, I like how you related it to the parietal lobe, so I couldn't talk smack about it. A nice work. But would you agree? I mean, you must have had that experience where you've had that deeply connecting moment with when you are sharing. You know.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite and, you know, deepest musical experiences was actually on the last Madonna tour. So I'm a Madonna fan. I go on Madonna tours. I dress up. It's a whole thing. And I was on the floor.
Tomatoes in the comments.
Yes. And I was on the floor and was, you know, there with thousands of other people, and you become very close with these people when you're dancing together in tight quarters and getting sweaty for 2 hours. And at a certain point in the show, she starts playing Live to Tell. And then we see pictures coming down from the ceiling of friends, both well-known and not well-known of hers, who died of AIDS. And suddenly we have pictures of everybody who is on the AIDS memorial quilt site coming down, their pictures coming down, and we see all of these people who have died from AIDS. And every single concert I was at on this tour, there was always a man next to me around the same age as Madonna who said that should have been me. And we hugged and cried together. Every single concert. I didn't know them. I'd never met them before. I might not even know their names, but we shared that moment together at every single concert. And it was one of the most powerful connecting experiences I've had, with music being the underlying driver.
That's beautiful. And it, to me, encapsulates everything we've been talking about. The power to drive mood, connection, and catharsis, right? The ability to let go probably of some of those feelings for her, for the people who've lost someone, who feel like they should have maybe been the ones to go, and then for you to be able to comfort them. How powerful. I'm glad we got to talk more with Donna. This episode is rightly named in her honor. Let's get into our takeaways and let's try and do them. What are the takeaways that you want to give people from this episode?
Well, number one is I want to say music and math pair well together. Math is good. Go STEM. Also, music is good. Number two, music gives you a good dopamine squirt and an entire whole brain workout. It really does. It's absolutely amazing for your brain. And number three, music is, in fact, as Madonna says, what brings us together. Yeah. So really, let's use music to actually foster connections with one another and appreciate those moments that sometimes can't come from anywhere else. How about you, Melanie? What are your takeaways?
Well, I loved hearing you tell that story just now. I mean, I think for me, it is always going to be the almost magical power of music to change our moods, to change the state we are inhabiting, and how we can intentionally use that. I think everyone should have a playlist. If you don't, people, I can make it for you. I would love to make it for you.
Maybe you would be generous enough to drop some of your playlists in the comments for listeners.
Oh, listen, but you've got to make them specific. You can't just, but I have one that I'm working on for the end of the year. It's going to be down there. I'm going to put it in the comments. But anyway, can I get back to my takeaways? I think everyone should make a playlist, and I think everyone should have that so that you can intentionally change your state, because it is such a powerful thing. I know it's worked for me so often. It can be such a great point of connection. Songs that you share with somebody else that mean something to you. That can be, I mean, that's why I listen to Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, is thanks to my mom. So she's got a lot to answer for. Not with Dolly, long may she live. But there's a reason I listen to The Gambler still driving around. So I think, think about it in terms of that connection. And if you haven't been to a live music event in a while, find a way. And we didn't touch on this, but like sing, even if you sing badly, sing and sing with other people. The power of that is so incredible. And I encourage you to just get out there and experience that beautiful connection. We are so grateful to have you with us. We hope this has been fun. We hope that we've given you some good musical ideas. A few things to kind of keep you in the musical spirit, as it were. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. Drop some questions, musical ideas, everything into the chat. We'll always respond.
Because if your friends don't dance, if they don't dance, well, there are no friends of mine. And we can act like we come from out of this world, although you're one far behind.